Most people move to Rochester for a job. Mayo, IBM, MedTech. It's a good town for smart people with big plans. But living here, that's different. That's the stuff that you're not going to get from a glossy relocation brochure or a green screen YouTube video that's just quoting Wikipedia. I grew up here. I left for a decade and I came back when my wife started working at Mayo. And today I want to walk you through what it's actually like to live in Rochester, Minnesota in 2025. The good, the not so good, and the things that frankly nobody tells you until you've already started unpacking. Hey there, I'm Andrew Norrie. I'm a Rochester native and a second-generation real estate agent. I help smart, down-to-earth people buy and sell homes without the usual real estate headaches. If you're thinking about moving here, or if you're just trying to figure out if Rochester's a good fit, I want to walk you through what I've learned living it. And if you have more questions, hit me up. I help people just like you move here all the time. All my contact info is in the description. So let's break this down into 3 parts. What do I love about living here? What would I change if I could? And what you should really know before you move. So here's what I love. First and foremost is just the pace of life here. You can get across town in 15 minutes. You don't have to plan your life around traffic. You can drop your kids off, run some errands, and still have time to hit a trail or make it to a brewery patio before sunset. Number 2 is that in spite of what you've maybe heard about Minnesota and our 11 seasons, nature's right here. City parks, biking trails, hardwood forests. If you like to be outside, Rochester punches way above its weight. Look, we're not Denver, but you don't have to escape to unwind. Like, it can be baked into the day-to-day. And as a side note, if you're willing to drive just a little bit, take it from me. Go into the driftless and you're going to discover that southeast Minnesota has some of the best small stream trout fishing in the country. The third thing that I love is it's smarter than people think. We're not a small town, but we're not a big city either. And because of Mayo, there's an international presence here. Scientists, doctors, researchers, people who care about facts, community, and public good. Directly tied to that is number 4, that our local pride is growing. Look, when I was a kid, there was quite a hoopla made out of the fact that Money Magazine had named Rochester one of the best places to live in America. There was even a small sign erected on the highway for people to kind of not read, I guess, while they were whizzing past it at 60 miles an hour. Really, at the time, Rochester was just chain stores and cornfields. But today, there are actually things to experience. There's a growing food scene, local murals and music and theater, and we've got a creative pulse now that didn't exist 20 years ago. Look, don't get me wrong, we're not Minneapolis, but it's definitely better than it was in the past. Number 5, speaking of Minneapolis, is that you can get a little space here. Yards are bigger, streets are quieter. A lot of homes have space for a workshop or a garden or just space to breathe. And depending on where you decide to look, you're not going to feel like your neighbors are just stacked on top of you like you would in the outer rings of a major metro. So what would I change? That feels like a loaded question. The winter here isn't always especially charming, especially when it stretches past Fool's Spring. Do you remember those 11 seasons? That's one of them. It can get long, gray, bitter. Snow doesn't always magically coat the trees. In fact, it can sometimes just turn into ice ruts in your driveway. Some neighborhoods get plowed fast, others don't. And yeah, you're gonna wanna own a snowblower. But there's an old Norwegian saying that there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothes. And the reality is, if you don't find a way to embrace the winter, to allow yourself to acclimate and get used to it, then you just get a lot less joy and the same amount of winter. I'm gonna do a future video about adapting to our climate for people who've never lived this far north, based on what I learned growing up here and the questions that I've had from clients when they moved from places like Arizona or Florida. Some of them didn't know socks were a thing. Second thing I'd change is that much of the layout really isn't walkable. This is not a phenomenon that's unique to Rochester. Like, the whole country collectively decided to build car-centric communities right after World War II. And unless you're right downtown, most places require a car. Sidewalks aren't consistent, bike lane infrastructure is there and growing, but it's kind of scattered. And walkable on a listing often just means like, oh yeah, there's a quick trip nearby. In fact, one of the most common requests we get from buyers, especially those who are moving here to work at Mayo, is that they want to find housing that is walkable to the clinic. And those properties absolutely exist, but not to go all John Muir on you or anything. Technically, anything is walkable to the clinic if you just leave early enough. Third thing, architectural charm can be rare. Like, we've got a lot of Reagan-era split levels. And whatever you're picturing in your head when I say that, yeah, that's what it is. The historic homes are beautiful. And the reality is there just aren't many. They go fast. Now, there are absolutely developments that have solved this problem. But aesthetically, there's sort of this missing middle, where for decades, the focus was simply on affordable workforce housing. And while those neighborhoods have matured and homeowners have corrected a lot of those issues, from time to time, you're still going to walk into places that feel like a time capsule, like you just walked onto the set of Poltergeist or E.T. Fourth thing I'd change isn't so much for me. Like, I'm kind of a high-functioning hermit, but I hear from other folks that complain about the lack of entertainment variety. If you're used to a bustling nightlife, you might feel a little restless here. We've got some great local spots, but we don't have multiple comedy clubs and jazz lounges or late-night culture. And that's either a feature or a bug, depending on your phase of life. Me, I'm happy in the quiet. Love me some quiet. Fifth thing, it's not immune to small town politics. Like, for all our progress, we're still in Minnesota. Sometimes things move slowly. Sometimes common sense gets voted down in favor of nostalgia. And that's just part of the deal in the Midwest. While we're at it, and this isn't specific to Rochester at all, one thing that still just drives me crazy, especially for people moving here, is that you can't always trust the listings that you see online to tell the full story. Some of the listing descriptions are vague or missing key info, or worse, they're just straight up misleading. And that's not the fault of the house. That's the fault of agents that we sometimes refer to as commission collectors. You know the type. They snapped a few photos with their iPhone, tossed the thing on Zillow, and then ghosted their sellers. Well, they'll show up when there's a check to collect, but not before that. It's frustrating because buyers deserve better, and so do sellers. If you're moving to Rochester, that's one thing I'd watch out for. Ask questions. Expect detail. You should never feel like you're getting half the story. So what should you know before moving to Rochester? Okay? Well, the housing market isn't cheap anymore. You might think that Midwestern automatically equals affordable, and comparatively, yeah, that's still true. But just like everywhere else, Rochester's prices have risen sharply post-pandemic. Inventory is still tight, and Mayo's growth keeps pushing that demand. If you're moving from a major metro area, it still feels affordable. If you're local, not so much these days. Second thing you should know, it's politically interesting. Rochester is a blue island in a sea of red. So you're going to see pride flags right next door to Trump flags. And hopefully those folks are making it work. Most people are polite about it, but it's something to be aware of. Third thing, school quality varies by pocket. This is another issue that's not unique to Rochester. And the public schools here are solid overall, but boundaries matter. If education is a key factor for you, then you're going to want to look beyond just simple test scores and ask what life actually feels like in each neighborhood. Fourth thing, it's a medical city, but it's not just Mayo. Whether it was Mayo or IBM before that, for a long time, Rochester really read to outsiders, kind of like a coal mining town, where everybody worked and lived here and they all owed their soul to the company store. But there's a growing medtech sector now as well. You see biotech incubators and remote workers who bring in sort of a fresh energy. It's not a one-company town anymore, but that med-city presence is still the gravitational center. Fifth thing you should know is that because we're really still just a big small town, is that people show up for each other. Whether it's storm cleanup or community development or a kid's fundraiser, Rochester folks tend to pitch in. It's not flashy, but there's a real sense of community here if you give it time. If you're thinking about relocating here, or you already live here and you just want a better handle on what your home is worth, drop me a message. No pressure, no gimmicks, just straight answers and local insight. Links in the description. So yeah, that's what it's like to live in Rochester in 2025. It's not perfect, but if you like a place where you can think clearly and breathe deeply and maybe sneak in a little fishing before dinner, you might like it here. If you're curious about what kind of homes you can actually buy in Rochester, I've got a plan for a video breakdown for that too. In fact, I'm going to work on it next. In the meantime, thanks for watching.